All right, hey everyone. This is Matt, and we went on vacation, and we went down to South Carolina of all places. We booked it like way back in April before everything with COVID went crazy. And we met up with my sister-in-law from Texas, and so we were all quarantining together. But anyway, and I just got back from a drive. I drove all the way back. We drove all the way there, all the way back, of course. So I'm sorry I'm posting this so late. I just read Anne's piece on code meshing, and how she quoted I forget the name of the title of the piece again, but she starts off with talking about the importance of Lauryn Hill, the importance of the miseducation of Lauryn Hill, and then she links it up also to W. Du Bois, and it was just super powerful, really awesome. I also read the Vygotsky, I think it was Nordland's Vygotsky's paper, which talked about all the theory overall and all the research that's been done about writing centers, and it tried to point out too, like the flaws of calling for only the data, that the rad research that everyone is looking for, and it also reminded us the importance of Vygotsky and the social aspects of learning in general. And then the last piece I read actually was cited in the Nordland Vygotsky paper, and it's frequently been cited, and then once I read it I understood why, and that was Brooks' Minimalist Tutoring, and that was awesome. That was actually one of my favorite pieces, because it just talked about so many great tricks of the trade that you can do in writing centers, in making certain too that you always leave student authors as agents of their authorship. And I think that happens so much, where students become disempowered either by overzealous parents or even to teachers. We ourselves need to remind ourselves, hold back on the pen, and what are the better ways that we can go through and help kids gain, again, that authorial control, and have that authorial growth and that cognitive growth as well, which are the two phrases that I keep coming back to and using throughout this entire class, and some of my other classes too. I was so grateful for Anne's code meshing paper, because it helped me really start to understand the implications and the radical differences between code meshing and code switching. So thank you so much, Anna, for that. I understand you were mentioning this before. And so code switching is when you adhere to the dominance of power. Code switching is when you maybe have to follow the prohibition of language, and you change your language to modify for that audience. Whereas code meshing is where you bring in now a little more. You bring it. You bring in, you use your authentic self and some of that language that her lesson. She has this awesome lesson that she did with her students, where they all wrote in different circles on a content web, basically, of all the different languages they have, or of all the different areas that they use language. And they use language for speaking with their friends, maybe in speaking at church, maybe in doing work, maybe in doing schoolwork, and then they just randomly crossed out different places, and the students hated the idea of having parts of them crossed out. And then she said, well, this is, how does it feel? And the students came to the conclusion that all these areas that they use the language are areas of their identity. And so then they were able to understand how marginalized students may feel if we just readily cross out their papers. Instead, so what she did is she offered the support of the idea of that we should just not question, but just bring out things, elicit and recognize the authentic voice, and then ask students, and then be able to say, it's a hard delineation, because she said you have to point out, sometimes you might have to point out areas where there are just grammatical mistakes. But that sometimes too you can say, now, hey, so cool, like this, you can acknowledge the person and the identity that is creating the language, and say, and just inform and say, okay, how would you want to go ahead? Do you want to stay true to this, who you are? Do you want to try it in a different audience? But the ultimate decision, again, is always left with the author, so that they have that sense of agency, and not that you're ever forbidding or prohibiting any of their identity. That was my takeaway from it. I guess the main theme throughout all the papers was the importance of questioning, and questioning the Socratic dialogue. The questions are really just the key agent of that collaborative learning and that collaborative exchange that they wrote about so much in the Vygotsky paper. And so that really is that key piece of help elucidating the students' authorial growth and the independent acquisition of learning. And so that it's in Brooks's paper, in the minimalist tutoring, he puts it so perfectly. We have to go ahead and we're not there to be an editor. We're there to be a tutor, an educator. And I think that it's such a worthy lesson, not only for writing center tutors, but also for educators across the board. And he's got so many great, I would highly recommend this article. In fact, I definitely think it'll be one of my 5 articles now, although there's so many articles that I'm just like, But anyway, he has great, here's what you do with body language to constantly reaffirm that this is the student's paper, and we are not here to edit. We are here to help them on their growth and their journey with their paper. Even simple things like just sitting down next to the student, not across from the student. So there were just so many things that the minimalist tutor was powerful, and I can see why it was so widely cited. And through them all, it's the importance of questions, which also made me really happy, because that's exactly what I came to with my understanding again too. I've always, when in leading my writing center at the high school, that I've always found that this is, and being a teacher, I've always found that those are the most powerful moments of growth, is when I'm able to work one-on-one with students, but just kind of, again, question their thinking and question where they can go and question how did they get there. And in my recent blog post, again, I was reminded in my second blog post, I wrote about how the coronavirus helped remind me that I could use Zoom to go ahead and powerfully engage and have these. I have 5 simple questions for kids that'll just kind of, again, help me best work with them. And it brings out such a different response from kids when you do this. Anyway, check out my blog post if you're curious about my questions. If you're still even watching this. And I'm sorry that I've kind of turned this in a little late, but it was a long drive. But anyway, I hope you all are well, and I'm looking forward to reading some of your questions. All right, take care.